The mission today is to sharpen your swords and get you ready for battle. It's time to fine-tune your craft and make you the best in what you do. The mission is to equip you to help anyone purchase what they need. We'll share the best advice from the best in their industry. You'll be listening to a conversation you wish you had with the mentors you wish you had. Take what makes sense to you and makes you better in your career. You guys, Bruce Lee said it best. Absorb what is useful and discard what is not.
Welcome to an amazing episode of The Commission Mission. You know it, I am Micah Henderson.
And I don't even need an introduction. No, just kidding. My name is Eric Gerace, and I'm really excited to be here today. A guest is a good friend of mine and an amazing pastor. He lives his life the way most people strive to, and it's a good reminder, especially to new and starting entrepreneurs, about foundations and building up from the basics. And I'm excited to have Garrett McKenzie. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yep. So one of the things that happens when we start a new business or if we've been going at it for a while and it's just we plateaued, it's like, how do we get to the next, how do we level up, how do we get over this obstacle in front of us? And we start to get busy, and we start to figure out activities. Maybe it's this marketing plan, not this marketing plan. Maybe it's this many phone calls, or maybe it's this many cold calls, or whatever it is that we figure out when you start to get on that hamster wheel and to nowhere. It's not going to get us towards our goal, but it makes us feel good because we're busy. What we have to remember is that we're human beings, not human doings, right? So it's all about being. And the more that we can center and come from this place of peace, love, and enlightenment, how we do one thing is how we do everything, right? So if we start with this foundation and this a way to draw this connection from this infinite source, why not use it, right? Why do so many people have this free resource at their fingertips and they don't use it? But Garrett is a master of doing this. And Mike and I had a conversation before the show today, and we were talking about, he was asking, a pastor, how does that fit in commission? I said, well, if you look at it, you solely work from commission. It's all about donations, and the commission that you get, people don't get a product in return other than connection, a feeling, emotion. So what you're selling is your vision, right? On what you see and how you can help and how many people you can serve. And coming from a place of service, I've noticed it pays dividends on accomplishing what you want.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you do what you do, Garrett? Explain like what do you think are the gold nuggets that someone that's out there struggling in business from you could hear this nugget and
so I would say
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure, right? I'll give you all the answers in the next 5 minutes. So I think it's believing in the cause that you have. So I believe that everyone has a purpose. So I have a purpose, you have a purpose, and all of our purposes are unique to ourselves. So the way that I believe is that we were designed and fashioned for the purpose that we have in life. When we are connected to that purpose, we're going to find the most happiness, we're going to find the most joy, because we're actually, I believe we were fashioned in a way to carry out those things in our life. So seeking those things, sometimes we find those things inside of our heart that could be connected to business or ministry. And if we just will take the time to look inside of ourselves, then we'll actually see that would be very profitable and people actually investing in the vision that you have because they're investing in a purpose.
And what price tag could you put on quality of life? Because see, one of the things that I noticed when I really started putting focus on, so I looked at it science and logic really resonates with me, right? Easily. So I looked at it from an energy standpoint. So, and I knew that like attracts like. So how do I get to the vibration of the things that I want to receive in my life? And so for me, I knew that if I was depressed or sad or in that moment, I kind of destroyed instead of created, right? And so for me, it was really hard to do this in the beginning because it was completely anti the programming I received all through college and high school and growing up, and it was to step back. And so for me, I have to be happy in order for me to be successful and creative and create. And so for me to do that is I had to go find something that would make me happy. And like I shared with you earlier, it's like sometimes I would go drive a go-kart. Sometimes it would be meditation and prayer before I would answer marketing phone calls. But whatever it was, I knew I had to be at that vibration of what I wanted to create. I couldn't be down low and expecting to receive high vibration gifts. So, and I've noticed, like through my relationship with you, that you're a constant reminder of that. Like you said, finding your purpose, finding something that lights you up inside, and whether it's business related or not, find that thing, because do that thing, and that's what makes you happy, and then it resonates throughout everything else.
Yes. So, like you said, what I do a lot is, all of it is donation based. So if people don't invest in it, then I can't feed the poor or do all of the things that I feel like is my purpose and my calling in life. And so one of the things that I do is I'm actually inviting people to come alongside me. You know, I'm not just telling people, you know, give to this, but I'm inviting them into the vision that this is what I believe that my passion and my calling is, but this is also something that we can collectively do together. So for me, there's a bigger picture in it of if I can show people that I truly believe in what I'm doing, that I truly believe that there is purpose and life in what I'm doing, then people don't mind investing in that because their purpose is attached to that as well. And that really just shows how we're all connected, really. And I believe that for me, that goes back to just looking at the heart of God, because when we center around those things that truly matter in life, those things that are precious to the heart of God, like the least of these, like the person that is the addict on the street, the person that we don't normally love well. You know, whenever we can focus on something like that will really strike a chord in someone's heart and say, that is something I want to invest in. That's something that is a worthy cause. That's when I've seen the most success. There's moments where I've been in tears because I wasn't expecting, you know, the outpouring of love through finances, really.
And one of the things that I've seen you do really well in this process is using social media.
Yeah.
You know, and there are some things that you do that I think make you stand out. And one of the things is obviously you share your vision, right? So you share your vision, hey, and then you make a request. Hey, this is what I need to help support. And then you give them a way to do that. You give them a link to make that donation or to contribute, and you give them ways to make that. And then what you do that's really amazing is the follow-up afterwards. You show them, hey, look what we did. Look what we accomplished. Here's how many meals we gave. Here's how many people that we helped. And by providing that whole story around that, I think is another thing. And people, like I'll see a lot of salespeople that are new and starting out. They'll do the advertising part of it in the beginning, trying to get the sales. But they don't do the follow-up with the, hey, this is what your money's done, or this is what we've accomplished, or this is what your purchases has made provided for you. You know, because a lot of times we don't share the benefits of what someone buys from us. You know, and I see you do that really well on social media. So my question to you is, how did you come into using social media? Is there like a schedule that you do things, or is it just something that comes naturally for you? What's your secret sauce around social media, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
I really think social media is an extension of who you are. So it's not just what you want people to see, but they really should see the transparency there. So you're interacting with someone as a person on social media. You're not just interacting as a brand. You're interacting as a family. So I truly treat social media as that is a separate family, a separate sphere of influence that I can interact with, that I can show my heart. When I comment, I'm not just commenting something so.
You're not using the canned responses that Facebook gives you.
You're
connecting it. And what's important to realize about this is you're creating a relationship. Even though it's a separate family, you look at it, you view it as a relationship. And so it's not sales, it's relationship management is really what we do. And that's why CRMs are customer relationship managements. You know, it's managing those relationships and not focusing on the sale. Like when Garrett comes to you, you want to hear the story that he's about to share with you. He doesn't come to me with donation breath. and give me. I can't wait to hear the next project that he's working on, because it lights me up when you hear that story about what it is. And I think and I know Mike would agree with this, especially insurance, you have to create these stories around, like we talked about, hey, here's your life with my solution in process, and here's what we see.
Using emotion and what you do is important to make sure that someone sees your vision and makes it a little bit clear. Real quick, just a couple thoughts on what you're saying. While I have the light, one, I think that finding your passion, and whether it is business related or not, will drive what you do to make that money, because that money provides you the ability to do what you're passionate about. So really looking inward and finding what you're passionate about. Two, inviting someone to come along. I think that's genius. I think that's great. And whenever I hear good ideas, I try to apply that to myself and what I do, and see how it applies. But being genuine and authentic, so important, and in using social media as an extension of yourself, as opposed to a marketing platform. And people are going to feel that, whether it is in person or whether it is over the internet. They're going to feel whether you're the real deal or not. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lot of the relationships that I have on social media, I don't actually have the relationship with them outside. And I've found that some of them are people that will sow finances into me, and I've never met in person. But there's still that personable side of social media where, there's times that they'll write the page, and for me, being Christian and that side of what I'm doing, they'll ask for prayer requests, so it's investing in their life as well. They're connected to it. So in the future, whenever I do have a project, there's already that connection made, and they're invested in the relationship that they have with me through social media as well.
Hey everybody, this episode of the Commission Mission is brought to you by Bill Kramer Chevrolet.
When this baby gets up and running, you're gonna see some serious stuff.
But do we have enough gas?
Where we're going, we don't need gas.
Will, what the hell are all these chargers?
The question is not what the hell are these chargers, Chris, but when the hell are these chargers?
Will, are you telling me we're adding state-of-the-art charging stations and upgrading our entire electrical grid for electric vehicles?
Yes, but the future is now.
No, I really didn't see, of course, like, let's say, so my personal social media, I think of that completely different than I think of my business page's social media, that I would put maybe an advertisement of a product, or share a story on there, but it isn't. It's coming from a whole different Micah with a whole different hat on his head, whereas my personal social media, there's no hat at all. I'm just
and see, this is the shakeup to like the old school way of thought, right? So like my training, my whole life was. It was about funnels and making so many calls and doing so many things. And what I've realized now is more of tuning in. So I was a planner, right? So if I had a goal, then I had to figure out all the steps on how to get there. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? How's this going to happen? And then if this doesn't work out, then how am I going to pivot? How? And what I've recently done that's been completely a life-changing experience for me is I just figure out what I want and why I want it. And then I turn the how over. And I just, however it shows up, because like I had a vision of this dream house I wanted, right? And in my head, it looked like this Spanish style mansion with pools and fountains and all this stuff. And then I pulled out my life vision a few years after I had written it, and I was sharing it with a friend of mine, and I realized that the house I was living in was the exact description I had written about 2 years earlier, but I didn't see it until I saw it, and things don't always show up the way we have them in our heads. And so figuring out what you want, And then coming up with that unstoppable why. Like with Garrett, his why is unshakable. You can put a hurricane in his path, you can put storms, whatever in his path, and he just keeps on going. They're like speed bumps to you, really, when you have a big enough why. And so that's the reminder to our audience, is that creating that why. And we have an exercise that I've done called 7 Levels Deep. And so it's like, figure out your why, right? So why am I in sales? Why am I going to do this? Well, I want to make a better life for my family, and I want to have all these things. Okay, why do you want those things? And then when the answer to that question is, then you ask it again, why do you want those things? And why do you want those? And if you can go 7 levels deep, I promise you, by the time you get to probably level 5, 6, or 7, tears are coming out of your eyes. And that is the why that you need to get you past any obstacle that shows up in your way. And that's what I've seen you do just masterfully. How did you find your why? How did your why come to you?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's something that, over the years, it's that why has developed, and that why has even changed over the years. There's always been that constant of, that constant of ministry, that the path that my life has been set on, but it's changed a little bit and morphed a little bit over time. But I think that's something that's been so key for me, is finding people that have been places that I want to go and having them invest in me. So I've always had a mentor in my life. I've always had somebody that I've sat under and that has poured into me. And when I didn't have the questions or I didn't have the answers to the questions, I sat down with them and said, how did you get where you were going? And had them invest in me and gave me even some hard answers. And I had to come in a place of willingness and openness to that, because some of the things that I was doing when I was younger wasn't working. It was not headed to where I wanted to be right now. And maybe where I'm at now is not where I want to be 5 years from now. And that's going to morph and change. But I think for me, that why has developed and even expanded as I've had mentors in my life that have poured into me.
Let me expand on that just a little bit about changing your path and knowing when to adjust. That just because you change what your path is doesn't mean that you're a failure, right? It just means what did work or what didn't work. You're addressing, and you're going in a different path. A lot of times, and I've done.
Sometimes you don't see that goal, like you think you want this goal, but there's a bigger and better goal, but you can't see it until you start taking some steps, because it's blocked by some things. And then as you start to move towards your one goal, then you can turn it over and say, oh, whoa. And
you weren't even aware of it until you.
But it's all about taking those steps.
Yeah. And until you made those steps, you weren't even aware of
you would have never seen it.
That being there. I know that I've gone in different directions, from working for other people to, different 9-to-5s to selling different products. And then before I found something that I really believe in, and that may change even further as opportunities arise. But, what's something that, it may be internal, I'm sure, that if you're on the right path or not.
Yeah, so I think that you'll find out if you're on the right path or not, because if you, just like you said, if it's something that is constantly draining you, I truly believe that we are fashioned within ourselves to be set on a certain path. I believe that all of us are. In some capacity, we are all set on a certain path. And so I think that those passions and those dreams are already inside of you. It's taking the time to actually listen to those desires and listen to those things. And if you're out of alignment in some of those areas, like I said, find somebody that has been there and has walked through success and walked through not only what we call mountaintop experiences, the points where you're the happiest, but points that were very difficult, the storms, the times where business wasn't so good.
COVID, shutting down your church,
a hurricane.
A hurricane ripping your roof off. I mean, there was all these things, challenges that you faced.
Forest fires last week.
You didn't skip a beat.
Yeah.
And then you, through donations, were able to rebuild your church even bigger and better than it was when you first went before the storm. I mean, it's been an amazing story. And one of the things that I've seen you two do well, really well, is aside from the relationship building, but is coming from a place of service, right? So you have a mission and a goal in mind, right? However, that takes a back seat to someone needing help.
Yes.
in front. And so you service that person first. And a lot of times, especially people starting off new business that have kids, I'm referring to like distractions as what most people would feel like they are, where the kid comes up or needs an attention. And a lot of times we say, hold on, 1 minute, this thing is more important than you, is what we're telling them in that moment, that we ask them to hold a minute. And so what I've seen you do is no one is less important or than what your mission is. And so it's a constant reminder of living our life like that. Because Mike and I talked about quality of life. You know, if you're the businessman that has all this free time in the world and you're out at the park with your kids, but you're on the phone and you're making phone calls and you're distracted and you're yelling at, you're not present, you're not there, and you're not giving or receiving what you're intending. And it all comes from mindset, right? Because you can put that phone in your pocket. You can, and everything can be okay. Because what's really amazing to remember all the times is everything that we feel is a choice. And one of the things that I learned in a really powerful dinner one night was high emotion equals low intelligence.
Yeah.
And when we said that, one of the people at the table freaked out, screamed, and ran out. And we got a witness of
the low intelligence
right in front of us, because they were triggered. But they were the only one at that whole table that was
sermon.
Yeah, but they were triggered by that moment. And what happens is we don't realize how much comes from within us, right? Yeah. And we blame all these outside factors, and it's just a time to remind ourselves to get quiet, to turn it over, to connect with source. And I love John England. John England uses it. Some people are triggered by the word Jesus. Some people are triggered by the word God. So it doesn't matter what you call it, higher power, source, whatever it is for you, right? Because if it's a hammer, it doesn't matter if I call it the bangy thing. It still pounds in nails, right? It doesn't matter the name I give it, right? I love that analogy. And so if religious words trigger you, that's fine. But there is something in you, and you know it, that when you connect with something that you feel lit up, that you just are like those days when you're just boom at your highest and best. Look at that in your life. And what causes that for you, and do more of that. Yes. Because the more you do that, the more it spills out into everything else that you do. And that's what I found. I started doing this thing called surrendered marketing, right? So I worked with a PhD in marketing. He was my partner. And so he's like, okay, here's the plan. Here's our demographic, everything. We're going to run these ads and boom, block this time so you can answer all these phone calls. Well, I started doing that and it was exhausting to me. I didn't want to answer all these phone calls, and I was talking to tire kickers, and it was like, And so now I got this download that I needed to attempt something called surrender marketing. What I was going to do is check in every time I answered. And when I did that, and I shared it with my partner beforehand, transparency. Hey, this is what I'm going to do. No surprises. And when I did it, he supported me in that. Okay, let's see how it goes. But he had no trust in it, really. But what I found was, sometimes I couldn't get the answer. I was too nervous or too anxious because the phone was ringing. I was supposed to answer it. And so I would just let those go. I wouldn't stop trying to get centered. Or I would get centered and ask, should I recall them back? Do I need to call them back? And then I just followed whatever intuitive thing popped up for me. And I realized I spoke to people that were serious. I let the tire kickers go to message. I was able to communicate them much more effectively with text message than spending time on the phone with them. All around.
So, and what we're talking about, finding, your peace of mind in your mindset and being able to control your emotions, any helpful hints in finding, your center, getting centered so you can accomplish a task, as your best self?
Sure. So there's always going to be those times where there's parts of your job or your ministry or whatever that looks like for you. There's always going to be times that you're facing things that are uncomfortable and difficult. For instance, this kind of hilarious, but I actually hate asking for money. I don't know many people
it's
that really
necessary,
like
but
asking for money,
right.
but it is part of my mission. It's part of what my purpose is because if I don't ask for money, then I don't have the resources to help others. And so in those times, I think keeping that perspective, just like you said, of taking a step back and realizing the bigger picture, because there are going to be those moments that friction happens on the inside of you, but be able to step back and see the bigger picture, that this is for a grander purpose. So I can stay refocused if I will step back and look within myself and say, okay, right now is uncomfortable. Right now is out of my comfort zone. But I know that if I will recenter and focus on, for me, looking at that in the eyes of the homeless person on the street that can't help themselves, that we're providing, backpacks for, and clothing for, and transitional housing for, and, or that man that was on the street and he'd never heard of, or his father didn't know if he was alive. He's on the cell phone with one of our team members, and we bought him a bus ticket back to his father. Things like that. If I can remember those moments, the wins,
That's powerful,
and center in on those things, then I really will have the passion and drive to do even the things that I don't desire. So it really does, in my opinion, it really refocuses you. If you'll focus on the wins and not just focus on, the here and now, the mundane things.
Well,
that
it's
really
finding a why, and it's looking for ways that reinforce that why.
Exactly.
And
so it seems like there are a couple contradictory statements. Earlier in the conversation we were talking about finding what it feels comfortable, what doesn't feel comfortable, and tuning in that way. And then on the other hand, on the flip side of that coin is being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and being growth in being uncomfortable. That when I start a new project or a new going after a new license, man, it is tough because I don't know it. I'm not comfortable with it, but pushing through that discomfort and getting better and better at something, I'm glad that I did, because at the end I'm the master of it, and it's a new tool in my tool belt that I can help people and make money.
Well, one of my mentors, video mentors, was Les Brown, and he had an amazing line. He said, "You don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great."
Yes.
And so it's about taking those bite-sized chunks. How do you eat elephant? One bite at a time, right? So taking those small steps, doing them from a purpose. One of the things I learned that was a big aha moment for me was the difference between efficiency and effectiveness, right? So I always spent my life on being really efficient. Things were really easy to do, but they weren't really effective. And so I changed on starting to be effective. And what I realized is my life time freed up, because I was doing so much busy work that wasn't taking me anywhere to be efficient. When I started doing things that were effective, it was less steps. I was taking the steps with confidence, and I was dealing more with action takers, because I'm sure there's people that would talk your ear off all day long, but they wouldn't support your mission. But they are like energy vampires, I call them, right? Yes. And so, how do you, in your situation, how do you deal with energy vampires? Is there tricks, or how do you do? What's your secret sauce with that?
So that's going to be everywhere. Really, almost on a weekly basis. There's going to be people that come into your life that really, I would say, are even a distraction. I think that the importance of that is. Every person, for a business or for doing ministry, when it comes to fundraising, every person is a potential supporter. And so I think it's so important to recognize sometimes when there are distractions and know when to pivot away from them and know when to handle them with care, but also to make sure that you're not pushing people aside that might actually come alongside you. And I have an example of that I was really shocked by. There was a gentleman that I was speaking in a service, doing a fundraising service. So I go every week and I speak in a different place, and they take a collection for me, and it goes into an account that will be dispersed, divided up towards my funds and divided up towards ministry funds where I can help other people. Well, there was a gentleman that approached me that wanted to ask all the wrong questions. right? And my job in those times is to connect with as many people as possible. So yes, I saw that I was engaged with them when I spoke. I saw their passion. I saw it in their eyes as I spoke on and shared the testimonies and the things that had taken place out on the streets and how we've helped people and what they would be sowing into. And so I was excited because there was that engagement. But afterwards, this gentleman approached me, and everyone left the room one by one, and I wasn't able to talk to anyone individually. And that's, to me, that's sometimes even greater than having a microphone, is being able to have that one-on-one interaction. And he cornered me up in the room, and I thought, man, I drove 3.5 hours one way just to have this really about a 10-minute talk. And then I didn't get connected to anybody. I thought it was a total waste. So in my mind in that moment, it was really a learning experience for me because I didn't push him aside. I was struggling of, should I step away? Should I ask him to step? But I didn't. He asked all the wrong questions. And just to be honest, it was very draining, very annoying. It was just like an emotional vampire. Yeah. Like it really drained the life out of me, discouraged me.
And I think part of it comes from some belief within us, like a lack of confidence. We had our previous guest talked about confidence. And when we have that lack of confidence and we're not really sure about, because it's something new that we just launched into, I think we tend to be more susceptible to those because we don't want to lose that potential sale.
Absolutely.
We don't want to come across as rude. But one of the things that we need to remind ourselves is transparency.
Absolutely.
The more transparent we can be about things, the less susceptible to energy vampires, because we kind of put the ball on their plate to have some compassion for us about our situation. So, but we're not usually comfortable about bringing those type of situations up, especially like with me in real estate, right? So I have people that are coming to look at a house and they're asking all these questions. Well, I don't want to, when we get to that stage where I realize they're kind of wasting my time, how do I pivot on that? What's the right way to do it? And what I've found that works really well is give them an action step. Mm-hmm. Hey, do me a favor, and just whatever it is, I would love to help you with this, but go do this thing first.
Yeah.
And then reach back to me, or we'll have this conversation after. So kind of finding those little tricks, finding action steps that you can give your clients that when you get into conversation with these, it's not rude.
Well, Garrett, you said that was a learning experience. The story you just shared. What did you learn? How would you have handled that different looking back? Is it transparency, just being honest with them? Hey, I'd love to speak with you, but I need to speak with other people too. Here's my contact information. Or how do you handle that differently? What did you learn in that experience?
Maybe this is a curveball to the question, but come to find out he was a multimillionaire. And so I was cornered in the room, feeling discouraged, feeling like I had wasted my time, and he ended up single-handedly being one of the largest investors in our ministry.
So you never know.
And you never know.
But see, well, you kind of do know, because where this comes from is what's really important about this is it was the story in Garrett's head, right?
Yeah, that's so true.
That defined that interaction. It was a story that we tell ourselves about that interaction that defined how you felt about that interaction. But it wasn't even like, that wasn't the interaction that you were really having.
Yes.
That was the interaction you were thinking you were having.
Perception
it was
is
the perception
that powerful.
It's all about our perception and how we look at things. And that's why having this foundation of surrender and acceptance and willingness, like you used that word earlier, I think is fantastic. If we can start to look for willingness in situations, that raises, you're now in like a positive frequency, where most people reserve down in anger, fear, and pride. Hey, I'm proud of my student. I'm proud of my student. That's still a negative emotion. Yeah. It's still coming from a place of lack. And disbelief. So the fact that we can start with willingness, right? So willingness is above the neutral line of on the frequency of emotions chart. So if you start to look for willingness in situations, as something is upsetting you, getting you down, triggering you in any way, look for how you can find the willingness in this situation. And the more you start to take those steps, willingness will show up as your option from that point on.
Absolutely.
So just going back to your example of your story, and that originally you didn't read that person either correctly. What I'm wondering is, like, now that that story has been said and has played out and you did realize that this was very beneficial for you to talk to that person, that it felt like an energy vampire, but at the end of the whole transaction, it ended up being, it was good that you gave that energy because you did get a lot in return. So at the time you read it incorrectly. Right.
Yes.
And you maybe could have spoken with everyone else there for 5 minutes and would not have impacted your ministry as much as talking to that one person the same time. So how do you wrestle with that? How, moving forward in the same situation, how do you handle that differently?
Well, for me, the learning experience really was treating even those people that are draining, that we would label as an emotional vampire, people that we see as, because it's everywhere I go. There's always going to be somebody that turns a negative spin on what I'm doing or ask questions just to rub you wrong. But you never know if somebody is actually trying to see, are you worthy of investing in? Are you?
They're kind of interviewing you, or
Exactly, because people want authenticity.
Yeah.
And so what I would say is, even in those times where people are draining, you never know if they'll come back around and be a supporter later. So not treating anybody as if they're a throwaway at any point. And that's very difficult to do.
Right. Well, and I like what Eric said about transparency and just being upfront and honest and being genuine. But I want to add to that is without hesitation, because that really does show even more, authenticity. And, just saying in that story, in that scenario, saying, hey, I great conversation. I did just want to get to a couple other people. Can I have your information? Here's my information. Can we set a time to continue this conversation? Absolutely. And that's still respectful, and that's still saying, hey, I respect your time, and I just want to get to everybody else. And you would think a reasonable person would understand that. Yeah, you probably want to talk to more people than just me. How's next Thursday at 3:00, and we'll pick up where we left off. Awesome, great meeting you, and then moving on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the reminders I tell myself all the time is everything's happening perfectly. So, like if we look back and we start to dissect that particular situation, with a brief pause, he could have changed his feeling about that situation in a moment, saying, okay, yeah, this isn't what I thought this conversation was going to be, but it's happening, and so it's perfect. And so here I am. And then your energy shift in that can then change the energy of that and the direction of where that conversation is going. So again, it comes from us. We're fountains, we're not drains, right?
Yes.
So we exude whatever our environment, and then we affect our environment around us. So it's important to remember to have that foundation of love, peace, and joy in your relationships throughout business or ministry, because when you come from that place, you affect everyone around you to do the same.
Well, so wrapping up today, time
goes quick.
It really does go quick. But is there anything else, any words of wisdoms, where you can help people find that peace of mind through that mindset and further their mission in life?
Yes. So I would just reiterate again, find someone that has been where you want to be. So if even the general area that you feel a direction in your life, in a general area of business, whether that be real estate or whether that be ministry even, find somebody that's been there, somebody that is, I would even say somebody older than you, that has been through times where it's difficult and times that it's good as well, and not just those times where it's there's always young successful people, and I think it's wonderful to learn from everyone, but find somebody that's weathered some storms and have somebody that's willing to help pull and draw that out of you to help find that purpose, because I believe you can find it within yourself, but I also believe in the value of aligning with other people.
Man,
if someone wants to connect with you, or if someone wants to support you in your ministry, how would they get in touch with you? And we'll put a donation link with your permission on our website as well to do the same. So
sure. So we can add that donation link, but also you're welcome to add me on social media. It is Garrett McKenzie -US Missions, and I post all of my speaking engagements on there. There's ways to give on there as well.
Definitely want to check out his page. ton of amazing stories. If you want to feel really good, read Garrett's page. That's like the complete opposite experience of most Facebook pages, where you go in and it's everybody posting all these terrible things. Garrett, follow his page, follow his personal social media. It's amazing work that he's doing, helping tons of people, and it's just I'm blessed to call you a friend, and thank you so much.
Really appreciate you coming on.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a joy being here.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. That was
I was amazing
awesome
on that episode, man.
Well, you know,
I'm getting really good at this.
I stood there looking really good, statuesque. But when it came to Garrett, that was really good. That I got out of it. One, a reoccurring theme when it comes to a lot of different guests is finding your passion that will drive you, but then think about it in another angle, that it may not be your passion is what is making the money, but what is making the money provides you the utility, the way to pursue your passions. The social media as an extension of yourself, even if you are coming from a business or even a nonprofit perspective, you're still yourself. You're not I'm just business Micah wearing that hat right now.
And what I liked about that exactly was the fact that it's a reminder to be transparent on social media. You know, a lot of times we only post the good and the things that we want people to see and want people to think about, but they don't feel that it's genuine.
Yeah.
So when that's what Garrett does so well. You know, he went through hurricane, tornadoes recently, and he posts and shares his stuff. It's not all good news all the time, you know, but
still end up feeling good though,
genuine.
you know, but
it's genuine and it's authentic, and that's what creates that relationship. It's because of that like I support Garrett. I love, like, it lights me up when I have the ability to support his mission, because I know what he's doing is amazing and how many people that he's serving.
And transparency is a great word that I don't think we've really touched on, where in the scenario, I guess it's not a hypothetical, it actually happened, but in the scenario that Garrett shared in at the event and who he was giving his time to, we have to be smart with our use of time. That's one thing that we don't have.
We don't get it back.
We don't get it back. It's not infinite. So if we do spend every day investing our time in somebody who just does not want to help our mission, you're running that hamster wheel. You're running in place. Where if you are more selective, but it's kind of hard to decipher that read on that person and that interaction, but like I said, it's kind of a muscle that you have to work out. And even then, there are curveballs that are going to come where is that person.
That's what makes life fun.
Woo! Come on. But
if it was all straight down the pipe, we'd all be home run hitters.
But be transparent. Be transparent and without hesitation. And people are going to respect that. People are going to respect your honesty. And if they don't, is that really the type of person that you want to interact with?
99.9% of the time, they're buying you, not what you're selling.
But you can pick who, if you're in business, especially in sales, you don't have to do business with every person.
Right. That's one of my favorite things to do is fire clients.
Yeah, hey, we're not the right person. I may tell them, hey, I'm booked for the next 3 years, or I may say, hey, I'm booked for a while.
Who does this really well?
Yeah,
Mark
who
McKinney.
Yeah, or if it may be somebody who I am mentoring that is just getting started, who's a little bit hungrier than me and willing to go through the hoops a little bit more than me. So I'm going to have a colleague of mine reach out to you and take care of you, and that's the way to manage your time. But the last thing was mentors. We preach mentors, even if we're bringing you a mentor for 30 minutes a day. It is so mentors are crucial, and they need to be utilized a lot more.
Awesome.
That's what I got. That's what I got of it. I could probably keep going, but
mic drop.
Yeah. Everybody, that's this episode of the Commission Mission. I'd say that was a mission accomplished if ever there was.
See y'all next week.
Bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this episode of The Commission Mission. I hope you got a lot out of it. We need you guys to like, follow, subscribe, whatever that action is for the platform that you're watching it on. And please leave a review. That's a great way of giving us a compliment.
And if you're listening to this show and you're interested in working with a great team in either the financial industry or real estate, Mike and I have opportunities available for people to join our team. You can find us at livingthatcommissionlife.com and go to the Join Us tab.
Highland Finance, helping you prepare for life. The profit your business brings in should go to you, not accidents, injuries, and hurricanes. Do a policy review on your general liability and workers' comp today. Our proven track record helps our clients prepare for life. Call 850-359-5989. Highland Finance.